Well, good morning again. This is take two. I'm in a little room downstairs here, it's a quiet room, and it's a bit dark to give the contrast. And Jane's upstairs in the office watching Facebook, and we lost it just after I started, but I didn't realise. And it's the building internet. Had to re-log on. Anyway, long story. Then we had to set up again. So with a new thing in Switcher Pro, which we use the program here. Anyway, so we're back on track. It's the 21st of October, and everything is looking very conventional here. I just put the distance measuring here on the fleet to Cape Town, still 2170 nautical miles, and that's potentially a couple of weeks. And we'll be waiting in Cape Town for them to arrive, so that's kind of interesting. Anyway, a few things going on. First of all, you can see, we'll talk about the weather again, not a full rundown like we did yesterday, but basically South Atlantic high sitting here, and we can see Simon's actually coming in to meet the high first, and looks as if he's going to run out of wind. Anyway, the other thing I thought I'd do before we get onto this is just do a bit of a replay to show you how everyone got here, a video replay. If you've forgotten how to do it, or you haven't seen this little tutorial before, if you hit that little button there, you come up with a slide at the top which dictates the speed of your video replay. So you want to go reasonably fast, so you slide that along, that's the positive side. If you want to go backwards, that's the negative side. And then this is the replay here. So as soon as I pull this back, you'll see we lose windy, and you can see the fleet disappearing as I slide it back. So we want to replay it to about Matesia on the corner there, and then once you've done that, we've got the speed there. You just hit play, and you'll see that's a bit slow, so I want to speed that up a bit. We'll speed up the slide there. You can see Matesia got round, had different weather systems, so he's able to go to Cape Town. This is Simon coming down. He's coming down, gets hit with a breeze. Tapio and Pat head off. They got a different angle, so they've managed to stay out to the east, and then they're now coming into the effect of the high, and they've managed to get across. But the first thing that happens now that we've got that is just see what happens with this high pressure, because it looks as if Simon's going to run out with it. I'll get rid of that little bit. So now I'm going to, if you want to toggle it through bit by bit, if you're on your computer, you've got to hit the weather to activate it, and then you can use your right click button, and every time you hit it, it's another hour. So we're getting an animation here, so it's every hour. This is what's happening to the high. So you can see Simon's not going to run out of wind, because as he gets a bit light, and he's doing about 6 knots at the moment, the centre of the high is moving to the east, and so the wind is holding for him, and that's cool. So that's here we go, 24 hours later, and the centre's actually moved across quite a lot, so they're all going to have breeze. So that's okay. I'm going to run this through again now. We'll run it through to the second day. So here we come. So that's 2 days ahead, and you can see already what's happening is you're going to have a band. This center of the high is going to squash out. So if you're up too high, you've got light winds. If you're down the bottom here, you're going to have heavier winds, and that's where you want to be. So the fact that Simon is the furthest south, we'll go through to the third day. So we'll go through to the 24th. So there we are there. There's the third day. Now you can see if you're up the top here, it's light. If you're down the bottom, this is where you got your speedway, right? And this is exactly where Simon's headed. This is very traditional now. As I said, you go south until you hit the westerlies, and then you come along the bottom here, and then you head up to Cape Town. And see, there's no wind just there. That's the next really common thing. At some point, you're going to have to go through the high to get to Cape Town, and it's the luck of the draw, exactly what happens. So Simon's still in a commanding position, even though Tapio looks as if he's there, catching up here, and he's the furthest east, so on the leaderboard he's going to be in the lead. They've still got to come further south. They're going to have to angle down, where Simon doesn't have to do that now. He can actually head straight for Cape Town, but there's no question this mid-fleet with Kirsten and Pat and so on, and even Damien coming down, is has picked up a couple of days. They will have picked up a couple of 100 miles. Damien will anyway, if he can keep the speed on, because as you know, he's got a wind vane issue. So it's all pretty much playing out as we suggested. We keep running it through, and it starts to get very confusing. The other thing that's happening, of course, there's trade winds up here, so the tail enders are doing fine. But when we get towards a few more days out, as we pan it through, there's all sorts of things going on now, because that highway that I was talking about with Simon starts to get very confusing, and this is only okay. So this is only 4 days ahead, and in 4 days they would have done 150. So that's 600 miles. So let's just look at 600 miles from where Simon is. It's about there. So there's 600 miles. So in 4 days' time, when we've got weather that looks like this, if it holds true, and it probably will be close, it's still pretty light. But again, you want to be down the bottom, but you don't want to be in that one because you could stop. So it gets a bit fluky again. And certainly the wind direction is not a problem. There'll be spinnakers up down here at this stage because it's on the quarter. And back here, there's still breeze, but you'll see it's going to start to fluff up a bit as it goes through. I just activate that again. So we keep going across, and now you can see it's getting very fluffy over here, right? And that's where they're going to be. But the other guys at the top, they don't care. Anyone coming around here now, if Damien's up there, they can just keep following this across. But the guys at the back here, Guy Waits might be down here somewhere. Elliot might miss out, and the tail enders are going to fall into a... they're going to fall into a bit of a hole. So we'll just carry on with the animation. You can see it goes really soft all around here, and that might stall out Elliot again and the back enders. But then they've got breeze down here. Good sailing generally to get through to Cape Town a bit more, but that's only going to be a week or so away. And when I get up to here, see there's a massive hole there, so that's going to play havoc if this is the way it pans out. I just look at this. There's a bit of breeze right on the tip of Cape Town there, which happens as well. This is showing a big hole, but I'll show you something in windy in a minute, which is in the main windy map, which is quite interesting. So the weather's, it's all about the weather right now. So individually, let's look at the boats now. We'll go back to today's weather. Okay, we're going to drag it all the way back. Okay, so this is today. Damien's got a fair bit of breeze, but we look down here. Simon is doing 6.1 knots, so he's happy with that, coming around with the wind shift. Abelish is the same. He's higher than Simon, so he doesn't know it yet, but as it gets soft, he's going to have to go south again, so he'll be tailing Simon. And we'll do some distances here. So effectively, we're here to here. Abelish is about a day behind Simon, so that's not too bad. Distance to Kirsten in that area. She's 270 miles, still in touch with the leaders everywhere. If you look at with Tapio, because this is now the new course direction, 200 miles, near enough from Tapio, and a day from Pat. So they're all in touch, this whole group. And now, Damien, forgetting about his wind vane issues at the moment, a couple of 100 miles behind Tapio. But I brought up in the press release yesterday that people have been saying Damien has done really well and he's going through, and he has, there's no question. He's been sailing really hard, but it can be a bit deceptive because he's been passing a lot of the slower boats, which have been relatively slower. If we looked at it yesterday, we remember the Magic 550 from Finisterre. He'd actually only gained 80 miles since Finisterre towards Simon. Now, so if we continue on the southern track where Damien's coming down and Simon's coming down, Simon had managed to hold his own. Damien had only actually pulled out 80 miles from Simon for the last 2.5 weeks or since he was back at Finisterre, a long way away. So no, I'm not trying to say Damien hasn't been doing really well. He has. Everyone's been doing pretty well. But I just want to point out the fact that Simon's kept his distance. He's been driving that boat really well because, in my opinion, the boat's not as fast, in terms of design aspects. But certainly the way Simon's prepared the boat, very simply, very efficiently, and the way he's sailing the boat is really just as hot as Damien. So these two guys are doing well. And then, okay, once I say that, where's everyone else? Abelish has done really well as well. He's up there. So's Tapio. So's Pat. So's Kirsten. They're all in the hunt here. This is the main game for the front of the fleet. There's no question, and it's fantastic to watch. It really is for me. I'm enjoying it a lot. I hope you are, because it's pointing out the differences with boats. Rustlers are good, but they're beatable, and a lot of it comes down to the sailor, and then a lot of it, a big part of it is boat preparation. Now, the issue of the wind vane here is quite interesting because we're yet to find out what's going on, but suffice to say, apparently Damien's team got a hydrovane, pulled it apart, and may have, they certainly modified some of the head of the vane and bits and pieces. Everyone's gobsmacked that the bottom of the stainless steel is broken, because I'll explain a bit more about that on Saturday. But it's really sad, and now Damien's got a whole new challenge. He's sailing to windward, or not to windward, but it's easier to keep the boat going when the wind is forward of the beam without a wind vane. It's not easy, it's easier. Right, as soon as the wind comes on the beam, it gets challenging, and if it's behind, it's a nightmare. So, not sure what's going on. I think Damien's due to call today, I think. So we'll find out a bit more. Anyway, interesting stories nonetheless, and Simon's story being stuck up the mast. Wow. But we'll talk about that on Saturday. So I got a bit sidetracked there. Okay, coming back, Captain Goog, he's doing okay, 4.8 knots. He's certainly enjoying the ride. If you heard the conversation yesterday, he is, there's a few people that are just loving it, like in terms of the voyage and why they're there and what they're doing, and Captain Goog's right up there. He's having a ball. Ayrton the same, he's got his challenges with power, but doing okay, 4.9. Jeremy's plodding along. If you heard the call, he's very much happy to be there and not talking to anyone. He's enjoying the moment, but it's a bit ugly for him. He had 4 or 5 metre seas and water all over the boat and all those sorts of issues. So, but he's hanging in there. He knows he's on his way to Cape Town very soon. He knows what goes on with the high and stuff, but he's got barnacles as well, and he can feel them. He says the boat's sluggish. And Guy went over yesterday, and he says, I don't know whether, I think he went over and had a look. He might have put the camera over, but he said he's got a lot of barnacles on the boat now, so that's an issue for him. Doing okay, 4 knots, so it's softening off a bit. I was surprised also talking to seeing what's going on here. These guys have been getting really strong squalls, with 40 knots and more coming through. They're big squalls with big seas and confused big seas, so quite demanding for the trade winds. It can be different, but this trip's been challenging. Elliot's still screaming along, breaking all his speed records, which is great. And Ian Herbert Jones pulled away from Arnaud. Arnaud's getting swept out to the west there, but Ian's doing 5.9. Something's happened there. Good wind, good seas, whatever. He's doing okay. And Arnaud bringing up the rear, 5.8 knots. That's quite quick, but he is falling away. And but for now, it's good to get boat speed. So if we just come through a little bit on the breeze, just to see again the back end of the fleet, nothing changes, but the wind direction's getting better. You can see already now, right up here, up to Guy, you've got this northerly component in the southeasterly trade winds. So it's gone from southeast to east, so it's been east for long. But Guy's just going to start coming into these northerly aspects, so it's a north-northeast direction at the moment, and that's going to favour him, so he'll be able to turn around and come straight for Trinidadi, and then by the time he gets down here, he'll probably do a Matessi and head straight on, provided those light winds don't upset him, which it probably will. So anyway, so this is the new transition zone about there, and Elliot's heading to it, so he will easily make Trinidadi. It's back to the east, but yeah, down here, well, not back to the east, you can see it's going northeasterly, so that's going to, by tomorrow, Elliot will be happy as you can start to head straight for it. Ian's still doing pretty well on the 24th. What do we got here? Yep, still's got some north in the breeze, so they're all pretty good 3 days out, and then you can see already it's starting to soften off here, so all kind of interesting. Anyway, that's enough for today. Thanks for all the comments. I love seeing who's on there from all the different countries, Istanbul and cities and bits and pieces. It's quite fun, so let the comments flow. Always good. Thanks for all the compliments as well for the team. We're popping out the SoundCloud, the tweets and all that sort of stuff, and I can see everyone's enjoying that, so thanks for all the comments along those lines. Everyone's happy to see them. Thanks a lot, and see you tomorrow. Oh, it's the weekend sometime. We'll do the tracker tomorrow for sure.